Welcome to the Thrive Exchange, where we hold space for real conversation that nourishes the soul and sparks new strength. Today's topic: when God leads quietly, trusting the whisper, not the noise. Sometimes God doesn't shout, He whispers. And in a world full of noise, that can be hard to follow. But what if the quiet moments, yes, the quiet moments, are the most powerful moments? Today, we're talking about what it means when God leads quietly. We'll explore how to recognize His whisper, how to move forward when the path isn't clear, and how to stay anointed and how to stay anchored in faith, even when the voice seems silent. If you've ever asked yourself, God, is that you? This conversation is for you. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we will be talking about when God leads quietly, trusting the whisper, not the noise. And our guest, Mark K. Olsen. So, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Mark. Thank you so much for joining me.
Always a pleasure to see you, Dr. Angela, and even to talk with you.
Absolutely. I love our conversations and our listeners enjoy our time together as well. So thank you for being a guest with us. Now, our topic today, when God leads quietly, trusting the whisper and not the noise. Sometimes God doesn't shout. He whispers, just like a really good parent would do, right? We don't always need the loud and booming. Sometimes we need the stillness and the calm voice instead. And especially in a world filled with noise, that can be hard to follow sometimes. But what if the quiet moments are more powerful moments than the loud ones are? And today we are going to talk about what it means to be in that space where God leads us quietly. And you are such an awesome guest for this topic. So I cannot wait to explore how we can recognize His whisper, how to move forward in that, and to make sure that we are clear on the path of how we can anchor ourselves in our faith in God. So I love it. Now, before we get started, I just realized I don't want to be a bad host here, that there may be some new listeners that we have on with us today, and they're unfamiliar with who you are, Mark. So first question to you is, tell us just a little bit about who you are, what makes you you.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota in a Christian home. I went to high school and college. I was drafted and sent to Vietnam. And then when I got back, I started a real pursuit of Christ. I have found out that when the good things are happening with me, it's Christ coming through me. And when the bad things are happening, it's me getting in the way.
Absolutely. I think that's true for most of us as well. I love that answer. I love it. So, my first question for you is, when God leads quietly, the first part of our talk today, what does that mean to you? What does that sound like? What does that look like to you?
Well, when I saw this question, I immediately loved it because it's just a topic I love to talk about. Sometimes you have to be still to hear God's voice. In the Psalms, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." In Mark, Jesus says, "Peace, be still." In Psalms, that beloved 23rd Psalm, He leadeth me beside the still waters. And to be still, we have to slow down our mind because our mind is the thing that's churning and getting in the way of picking up God's guidance. That's why I love contemplation. where you can kind of reflect on something. And there's little pauses in there. And that's when God's guidance comes through. Now, let's say you've done that and you've contemplated it, and there's still nothing coming through. Then you might have to go by your wisdom pool, because sometimes God wants us to figure out ourselves what to do so that we grow. If we were always just told what to do, we wouldn't grow. So sometimes He leaves us in kind of limbo, and we have to decide based on our study of the Word and what we've learned is the right thing to do to the best of our knowledge, and do that. And we will know after that if it was right or not. God will show us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Well, let's look at the other part of that, the whisper, right?
See?
Sometimes, when we were little kids, we were taught that you don't whisper in mixed company because it was rude. However, I think as adults, we find that many times God does whisper to us. How is that a powerful way of God communicating to us as opposed to speaking more loudly or more directly?
I believe in signs. A friend of mine was asking God, what could she do? And a little sparrow landed on a branch right by her and started singing. That's God telling her what she could do. I've had the horn honk right after a specific thought, and somehow I knew God was telling me, yes, Mark, do that. Or a lightning strike once, right after a thought about God. And Spirit and God talk to us in those little ways with signs, dreams, uh, little things that happen. And it's kind of funny. We'd rather He just said it in our mind, but I don't think it happens that way very often. And if we can be still, sometimes it'll come up from our soul into our mind. And we have this feeling that God has laid something on our heart or something we haven't even thought of. And suddenly, oh my Lord, that's what I should do. One time I was looking to get out of giving an apology, and the Lord led me to give one to the offending party. And so sometimes the guidance is hard to take, but once you know your guidance, the decision is over. You have to do it. There's no decision to be made once you know what God has left you to do.
You are so right there, and I love your bringing in the animals. I've heard so many times from my client base that, especially when they were having those very troubling times, not necessarily negative, but just they were worried. They were really going over something in their spirit, trying to make a decision. Or sometimes it was grieving and trying to get to the forward movement in the grief process of moving past the shock and the hurt and the denial of the person being no longer with us, and trying to move on to the stage of acceptance. And I find that many times people make that very same correlation that, I went for a walk, I went to the park, I went to the beach, and there was always some animal that did something that was not necessarily out of the ordinary, but seemed directly correlated to what they were thinking, or that animal was in that person's personal space just enough for anyone, even walkers by or passers by, to say, hey, I think that squirrel's talking to you, man. I think that bird is singing for you, lady. Like even a stranger would be able to pick up on that. And you're right. I think I'm like that too. I look to how God talks to us in not the loud and booming ways, but in the very gentle ways as well. I'm one of those people. You don't have to yell at me to get it. You can you can just tell it to me plain, and it's like, gotcha, not a problem. Now, speaking of those times that we have with God, has there ever been a quiet time in your life where you know that that was definitely a God moment in that quiet?
That's interesting you should say that because when these things happen, like an animal coming up to you or a bird or something, you know, somehow you know that that's from God. The timing is perfect. And it's just amazing. With it comes that feeling that this is right. This is God talking to you. I don't know how or why, but it comes up from soul and spirit. And oh, God, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You are so right, and I've had it happen in my personal life as well, especially when I am thinking about a loved one that has passed on, and I miss them. Something awful. It's usually within like that first year of them passing, and you know how your heart still kind of it hurts a little, or you think of picking up the phone and calling and sharing your good news with them, and then you remember that you can't do it like that anymore. And so many times God has sent me just the cutest little butterfly, that for me, again, I'm not trying to make it more than what it is, but just for me and how I understand God, He'll send this cute little butterfly by, and it just makes me smile and it just tickles my soul. And I'm like, thank you for that, God. Like the reminder of they're fine. It's okay,
That's
right?
right.
Like don't
That's
you
exactly
worry
right.
about that. Yes.
That's right. And when these things happen that are challenging, we can look at them any way we want. And even with loved ones passing, I've lost almost everyone. You have to, if you can, have God help you to look at it with joy and to send them good vibes and thanks for all the joy they brought you and to look for those good positive viewpoints of it because you can look at it any way you want, and who wants to look at it in a sour or negative way? uh, we want to be in joy even during the challenging times and see that way where it's not a Pollyanna or making it up. It's true. That person that went on is happy and leading a great life, and they want us to keep being happy. So I think we can choose. Some of these events we can't get in the way of, they happen. We can look at it the best way we can and ask Christ for help in doing that.
Agreed, agreed. And thank you for adding that line. It is not Pollyanna, it is true. And yes, I'm sure someone listening, watching right now can raise their hand and say, yep, it has happened to me. I know that I get asked this question a lot, especially when we're doing webinars or we're doing some type of speaking engagement. And that is, how do you know the difference between your own voice for people who have that internal dialogue? How do you know the difference between your voice and God's voice? How do you know you're not just talking to yourself?
Well, it's a great question because we all wonder that. The answer for me is devotions, 3 times or more a day. And practice makes perfect. And if you practice listening for the Lord's voice, you're going to get better and better at recognizing it. Christ points this out in the Word. We know that when Elijah was being talked to by God, it was a still small voice. And if you practice and you're doing your devotions faithfully, you will get better at picking up that voice. Excuse me. This voice doesn't come from your mind, it comes from deep within you, your intuition. It has a different feeling. And if you practice listening for it, you can hear it.
That is so true. I love that you're reminding people to spend that time, that devotional time with God. And it is so helpful because scripture reminds us, my sheep will know my voice, my people will know my voice. And the same way that we as human beings know the voice of our parents, our grandparents, our caretakers, when we hear our name called in a crowd, we know whether or not that is someone that we know because we know that voice. And you are so right. The more we spend time with God, the more we become familiar with how He is with us, and we will know the difference between His voice, our voice, and then those thoughts that we should not pay attention to that are trying to steer us in the wrong direction. So you are definitely right there. Now, for so many people, when it comes to their spiritual habits or their spiritual practices, they feel that it's supposed to be easy, that it shouldn't be hard. And you've suggested that someone does devotional 3 times a day. I can already hear, Mark, someone saying, I don't have time for 3 times a day. What is the suggestion for the person that really doesn't have a lot of time for whatever reason? They don't have a lot of time, but they still want to spend time with God. What can they do?
Well, when you wake up, before you get up, after you get up, before breakfast, at noon, after work, after lunch, after supper, you take those little times, and some of them aren't very long, maybe 5 minutes before you get out of bed. But that time can be precious. And if you keep in contact like that, you are better able to hear God's voice. We're in the eye of a hurricane. And as long as we stay close to Christ, we're in the eye. If we get away from Christ, suddenly we're in the periphery where everything is going crazy. We need to do our devotions, even if they're short little ones, and make sure that it's just not our mind making us too busy to do them.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that, and I know my listeners that follow me and all the things that I do have heard me share this story before, but I think it applies to what you're saying here. As a breast cancer survivor, there are certain things that I do now that I didn't do previously. Now, I was, blessed to have gone to Christian school the majority of my life and so on and so forth. I grew up in church. I'm an officer in the church, so on and so forth. But it's still about that personal relationship that you have with God. And I thought I was doing a really good job before. Now, when I woke up from my surgery, and I realized that I was back in the land of the living, I was so excited. I was so grateful that I remember just in my conscious state, but eyes closed, saying, Oh, thank you, God. I'm here. But it was that moment that changed everything for me. Every day since then, before my feet hit the floor, like you say, right? Before we get into the hustle and bustle. So before you check your phone, you brush your teeth, all of that stuff, I lay in bed as soon as I am aware of my consciousness and I say, Thank you, God, or good morning, God. Just something that acknowledges that I am aware of not only the fact that I'm here, but that I am here because it is a gift that was given to me today, and I wouldn't be here without God. So you are so right. If we did that, how that could change the projection of our day and of our lives.
It's so true. Draw close to God, according to James, and God will draw close to you. It's so simple. And if we stay close, God can transform our mind. We get energy from our devotions. When we're thinking about Christ, there's a valence or an electrical current set up between us and Christ. right by our attention, and energy and guidance comes down. It's really true. If you're getting frazzled and don't know what to do, you're not spending your devotions quite enough. Get back to them, get close to God. Oh, you'll feel so much better, and Christ will be real to you. Like after your surgery experience, Christ became more real. And when that happens, you become so thankful. So thankful.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has the whole experience, of course, was life altering, but I find it to be life altering in a positive way. And I know that sometimes people say, "Oh my goodness, folks can be so kind of foo-foo with it, that you're always happy or you're always like awesome and amazing God." And I go, "Well, don't get me wrong. I'm human too. I can have a bad day or, be a little grumpy or hangry just like anyone else can. But at the same time, you're right. I do have an awesome and amazing God." So I try to tap back into that and kind of pull myself, back to that side, back to center, as opposed to being over here with all of the chaos and the noise that we're talking about today that can really pull you off of the path that you're supposed to be on. Not putting it on anyone else that anyone is trying to do something, but just life itself can get a little crazy sometimes and it can pull you off. Speaking of that, I think that being obedient to, like you said, to spending time in that devotional, being a child of God and spending time with Him is something that we need to do. So, when it comes to obedience, when it comes to dedication, when it comes to commitment, those types of words, so many times I think people feel vulnerable in doing that. They don't know how to stay obedient. They don't know how to stay committed. How would you encourage someone to build their courage to continue to walk in that obedience?
Ask God for help. Ask God. The disciples said, Lord, give us more faith. It's okay to ask God for those things, for faith, for courage to do right. God, help me.
Yeah. You are so right. You are so right there. And that understanding comes with spending time in the Word. And spending time in the Word means that we get to spend more time with Christ. So you are so right. Every time you say something, you're adding like another layer of understanding, especially for that person that might be new to the faith and they're unfamiliar with how to make this happen. So thank you for giving that answer. Now, when it comes to encouragement, we know that scripture tells us that we should encourage each other, that we should encourage ourselves in the Lord. But some folks are going, "There you go again. I don't know what that means." So, how can we keep ourselves encouraged in the word?
Well, we will set an example for other people, and they will see Christ in our lives. And whenever we are asked, of course, we'll give encouragement, and we'll do it in little ways, and we'll be very clever. Didn't Jesus say, be wise as a serpent and gentle as a lamb? And sometimes we have to be that way. If anybody resents something we're doing, well, we don't want to cause resentment. We have to become a little more clever, supportive, exemplary, and uh, everything goes, all things to all people in a Christ like way.
Yeah, yeah. And you are so right. I think that for so many people they're looking for a one size fits all type of approach. And the same way that we are not a one size fits all with our friends, with our relationship groups, We are different things to different people, brother, sister, wife, mom, cousin, neighbor, coworker, the list goes on and on. So we should find that same sense of creativity, or find a different way to encourage someone who still wants to stay rooted in God, but might have a little tough go at getting started from time to time, or weathering the storm. If it's their first true big storm in life, they can be easily, knocked off kilter. So helping them, just being that root system that helps keep them anchored. I love that.
It might be a big hug.
Yeah. Yeah. You are so right there. That would be like my mom. My mom is a deacon in my home church, and I tell her, I said, this is so you. You have such a deacon's heart. She's so in tune with how people are feeling, and all of that. And sometimes when she walks up to people, more times than not, it's not just a hello. Even to the guest visiting the church, it's not just a hello, but it's a welcome, hello, and you get that hug. So you are so right. You never know. Sometimes people don't want to ask for a hug because they feel maybe a little childish, or that it might be off-putting to the person that they're asking. But a hug is such a wonderful way to just say, I'm there, and so is God. I
I
love it.
support you.
Yes,
I support
yes.
you.
And that is what people need, I think, especially today. They just need to know that they are supported. That is a great way of looking at that. Now, for someone who wants to move forward in their faith, be it that they are a new believer, or they've grown up in the church like I have, and they feel that they might be, I don't know, maybe slow walking, things might be a little stagnant for them. How do they keep that flame going? How do they stay inspired to continue to move forward on that path?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think in doing your devotions faithfully, Christ becomes more real. It was like your experience that you shared. Christ becomes more real. Now, when he does, and you start having experiences with Christ, oh, it is so inspirational. Now, I will admit, before that time comes, you're going to have to kind of toe the line with your devotions, and try to use your self discipline to stay on track. But if you do, after a little while, Christ will start speaking to you by signs and other ways. And it becomes so exciting, you wouldn't miss your devotions for anything.
You are so right, Mark. I have shared my story of the show of Daily Spark with Dr. Angela, and the just a little bit of the behind the scenes of naming the show. And originally when I started, I was a weekly show. And when I was asked, what would you like to call your show, Dr. Angela? And I asked, could I have 24 hours? I'd like to pray about it and see what God tells me. And God gives me the name Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. And I said, huh, such a curious name. Now, I didn't go any further or speak against it. I just said, "Okay, that's what God said." When I shared it, she wanted to make sure that I understood that I was going to be on weekly, just once a week, not daily. And I said, "Yeah, that's the name God gave me. I'm going to stick with it." A year later, I ended up being on weekdays with Dr. Angela, right? So I ended up being on daily. We fast forward all these years to today, and I am now on the radio 6 days a week. The only day I'm not on is on a Sunday. Because for most people, Sunday you're in church or you're doing something on a personal type of level. But why did I share that? Because you're saying, have that stick to itness. Do your devotionals. Trust that in doing that devotional, you will hear from God. God will direct you. God will lead your path. God will keep you on fire for the things that relate not only to Him, but that are for your life and for your purpose. And I could not agree with you more, Mark. The fact that I am on radio today is an example of that very thing, of trusting and believing and realizing that it is a gift that we are given, and the fact that I'm able to share awesome and amazing people like you to a listening audience. It's not something that I take lightly, and realize that, wow, this is an answer to a prayer, and God is rewarding me for my diligence in my commitment to doing what He would have me do with my life. I love that answer that you gave. Thank you so much for that. That just reminded me of another reason to be grateful. Thanks for that. Now, with all that you do, and I love a person who is busy about living out their purpose, you are also an author. You have to tell us about that. What is it like for you to be an author? And tell us about your latest book.
Well, my latest book is called The Deeper Secret Teachings of Christ, and it is Christian mysticism. And you brought up the daily spark. We mystics believe God is like a roaring fire of love, and we as souls are a spark of that love. We are all innately Christ. And this book is about how mystics look at everything. And it's very much like traditional Christianity, but we take it a little deeper on dreams and on the big picture. If you've ever been interested in Christian mysticism, this book is only 130 pages. It's short and it provides an overview of those beliefs. It's available everywhere and on Amazon.
I love that, and thank goodness for Amazon for helping our authors out there. So no matter where you are in the world, you're able to get that book usually within 2 days. So I think that is so helpful. So you can hear it on a Monday, and you could very well have it by Wednesday or Thursday. That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. So glad, and congratulations on a new book. We have had you on before, and this is not your first time writing, so you are a successful author, and we continue to just support the work that you are doing, in that you are walking in the call that God has placed on your life, and you are leading so many people to our awesome and amazing God, just by explaining it in a way that is relatable, that is understandable. And I think for so many people, religion becomes so much because they don't understand, what are you asking? What do I have to do? As opposed to just making it easy for the common person to be able to have that relationship with God. Make it easy. Don't make it difficult. And I love that you're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're so right. Do what you know is right and keep studying what is right so that you can grow.
Absolutely. And isn't that's it right there, so that you can grow. I think that is the point. When we talk to our elders, like our grandparents, they are not gonna say, "Boy, did I wish I had caught that extra episode of that TV show, that I, that I'd gone to the mall or purchased one more thing." It is about, get your life right. Make sure that you're right with God. Your family is important. Love people more. Hate stuff less. Be the best person that you can be. And everyone, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of, where they live in the world, everyone says the same thing. And I really think that they're onto something. Be the best that you
It's
can.
our mission. It's our
Absolutely.
mission.
Yeah, it is. I love that. I love that. You are so right. So I want to say again, thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. I have so enjoyed my conversation with you here today.
Oh, it was so fun. I wish we could do this every day.
I know. We'll have to have you back on the show much more often. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. It's such a pleasure.
With you as well. And listeners, viewers, thank you for spending some time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with us today, and I thank you for doing so. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.